Hey, this is Steve, Spring Holler Farms. Good to see you again. One of my most successful videos to date has to do with drying firewood. What size to split it, how to stack it, where to put it, things like that. A little bit about keeping it dry, but that wasn't the focus of that video. This video goes along with that video. If you want to see that video, I'll put it up there for you. But this video goes along with that video, and it helps more along the lines of keeping wood dry. You see, when you first split and stack the wood, you do that this winter to burn for next winter. So you get it split, you get it stacked, and you just leave it out in the open so that the sun and the wind can get to it. That seems to be about the best way to dry it at first. Unless, of course, you have a building specifically designed for that, which I intend to have, but do not yet. But what do you do when fall comes? You start getting into the cooler weather where if it rains, it doesn't dry off the next day in the heat. It stays wet for weeks, unburnable. Well, there's a lot of different options. Sometimes you just use what's available to you, like right here. I got these sheets of plastic. They were basically throwaway. I put them up on top of that wood stack and weighed them down. Problem solved, right? That does work. What's another way that you can keep your wood dry after it gets there? Well, you have this black plastic. The reason I say black, it's actually important what color it is. White plastic does not stand up to sunlight very well. The UV rays just tear it up and it gets brittle and falls apart. Black can withstand it much better. It'll last a couple of years. You can see here, this stack over here, that's from last year. That plastic is 2 years old. Well, actually, it's all 2 years old, but that's been on that stack for 2 years. That wood is really dry, and it's going to get used here really soon so that the other stuff has more time to dry. And you can really go the heavy-duty route, like this right here. That's one of those billboard vinyls that you can buy, and I don't know. Randy got a billboard vinyl for his sawmill down there, and it was nowhere near the quality of this one that I got about 3 years ago before I moved from Florida. This one is very heavy, weighs a ton. I've had it for 3 or 4 years now. No rips, no tears, no leaks. It's a great, great piece of vinyl tarp. And as you can see back there, it's another one of those use what you got type of things. I found a pool cover that I had when I lived in Florida. I never used it because I used a solar cover down there. And I just happened to see it sitting there. It's like, hey, that's about the right size to cover my wood stack. And so you put it on top of the wood stack, But then what happens? Wind blows, right? Off it goes. So what do you do to hold it down? Well, there's a couple of tricks to holding it down. First of all, the things you got to do. You notice I made this like a tent. I put a pole down the middle. It's higher than the rest of it to shed water. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, you're going to get spots where it will push down and you'll have a puddle of water sitting here, and then it'll get heavier and push down further, ends up ruining your tarp and leaking through and getting your wood wet. Now, I could lay heavy stuff on top to help hold it down, but A, that's not going to hold the sides down. The wind will get up under them and take it right off. And you can do like I have here, put some heavy objects down on the bottom. But I find the best way to do it, if you have some limb wood off of some junk trees that you don't really want to use for anything, you lean it up against the sides and put the heavy side at the top. And it pushes at the top, but it also keeps the bottom from blowing out. And that's, if you notice, what I do with all of my tarps. I do that exact same thing. You see it right here on this one. See it right there on that one. See it back there on that one. That's how I do it on all my tarps. I find that's the best way to keep the wind from blowing them off. But what is the very best way to keep your wood dry? Well, that's simple. And you already know what I'm going to say. You want to put it down underneath of a roof, like so. That way the wind stays off, the rain stays off of it completely. And if you build it right, facing south, the sun can hit the wood. You don't, and you leave slats in the back. You don't make a solid wall. That way the wind can still blow through. The sun can get the wood warm. Gets all the benefits of being outside, except for it doesn't get rained on. Now, like I said, in the summertime, that's not a really big deal. If it gets rained on, next day, sun comes out, it's 95 degrees, it's dry. But this time of year, when it starts to get cold, and the moisture increases, and it gets wet, it's going to stay wet for a little while. You don't want that. You want to keep it dry. This is the time of year you need it to be dry. So you use what you've got. You can go buy some plastic, find some plastic sheeting, weigh it down, build yourself a wood shed, which right over here, that's what's going to be there eventually, is a wood shed. That's the plan. A 24-foot wood shed, 3 8-foot bays, about 7 foot front to back, stack about four rows across there all the way down. I figure I should be able to get 5 cords in there, give or take, because I'm going to stack it more than 4 feet high. In case you're going to sit down and do the math and say, I'm not going to stop at exactly 4 feet. But I figured it, from what I can remember, I figured I could get about 5 cords in there. Maybe more. Depends on how high I stack it, how close I stack the stacks, whether or not I leave it sticking out a little in the front. Lots of variables. And anyway, thank you very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and watch some other videos on the channel. Thanks again.